What is up? What is up? What's going on? Let's see. Getting set up here. Running a little behind. Had a crazy. This is some fast ass music. Let's slow this down. This is on the dubstep genre. There you go. It's not so bad. It's all good. Anyway, let me get back to where we started, man. Dropping frames over here, huh? That's not good. Let's see what it says. Okay. Seems to be got frames detected 10% over last 2 minutes. Well, why is that? What's wrong with you, interwebs? Oh, this is some crazy. To change this up. I think I've heard this one before too. All right, let's see. Hopefully we'll continue on. All right, here. Let's see. I'm gonna look here. We ended up. Where did we end up? Where did we end up? Let's see. Changing case. I guess I should have started recording, huh? And good thing you can start it afterwards. Anyway. Alright, where did we end up? Where did we end up? I don't think this is where we were. String. No, let's see. Nope. Let's see where it was. Need to get back on the website too a little bit and try to get that. Because right now it says pandas and stuff. I'm trying to remember where we were. First steps, I thought. Nope. This is what happens when you don't prepare. It happens, you know. JavaScript first steps overview. What first byte? What's went wrong? During, right? Basically, yep, we did that. Yep, useful string methods. We were in there, I believe. Maybe that's where we were. I'm trying to remember. Mozilla, yeah, right. We were doing the length. Yep. Okay, I remember that. And this is how we were bringing up. I guess I should have just looked over at the console and realized that I was doing it right here. Browser replace Mazvan. But you know, sometimes, you know, you just kind of got my. Like, which way does it go on the camera? Got my bad Gatsby JavaScript sweater on. They got great deals over there. I'm a swag guy, so you know. Alright, so we were doing string methods, which is super cool. And you'll use this a lot, actually. This is quite a commonly used methods, or these are commonly used methods in JavaScript. I've used these more than I've used the math methods that exist. So, you know, just depends on what your work entails, I guess. But even at that, I haven't had to do a lot of crazy string manipulation. It's just one of those things, but very handy, very handy. So it looks like the last thing we did was using the replace method. So let's see, is that after the index of? Let's see where the replace was. Yeah, it must have been further down. Guess we could have just said, like, find it. Here we go. Mazvan, that's the one. So we ended on the active learning examples. Filtering greeting messages. All right, cool. So this is like going to be, okay, so in this first exercise, we'll start off with a simple. It says with a simple. That makes a lot of sense. In the first exercise, we'll start you off simple. We have an array of greeting card messages, but we want to sort them to list just the Christmas messages. Okay, so we want you to fill in a conditional test inside the if structure to test each string and only print it in the list if it's Christmas message. Okay, cool. So this is like a little challenge. So first think about how you could test whether the message in each case is a Christmas message, right? So let's see what they're saying. What is a string? What string is present in all those messages? And what method could you use to test whether it's present? So this one doesn't have Christmas. This one does. This one does. This one does. And that one does not. So we have 1, 2, 3 instances of Christmas, right? And so it wants us to print it. So let's see how they're doing it. This is the live output. Let greeting. This is the array of the messages, right? Assigned to a greetings let variable, right? So just like we had talked about, you can set, different types of things to variables. So in this case, we're assigning it an array, right? And this has multiple values inside of here. And remember, arrays start at 0 position, so the happy birthday is 0, and then we got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, right? Oh, 5 total actually. And so here is where it's actually doing the loop. So they're doing for let I equal 0, right? Because we're going to start at the base of the array, right? And then I less than the greetings length. So in this case, this is actually not this greetings dot length is unlike the doing the greetings length on just a string, right? If greetings was just a string, in this case it's an array though, right? So greetings, this might not be the greatest music to listen to. It's kind of a little too crazy. Let me see what I can find on here. This is gonna bother me. I need to do something a little bit. We are trying out, I don't know what Moonbaton is. Let's see what that is. Oh, there's like a lot of the same songs, so I don't know if that would be good. Let's see. Don't they have something just kind of kicking it? Acoustic? New disco. What is that? What's new disco? I didn't hear what that sounded like. Oh my god, there's only like 3 songs. Okay. Can I just get some electronic beats? There we go. Something simple, Just get some music going. Well, it sounds like video games. I don't know what this is, but we'll keep it for a second. Anyway, let's go back over here real quick. If it starts getting horrible, we'll change it again. So the greetings.length in this case is actually looking at the length of the array, right? So the length of this array is, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, except it's 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? But it's still 5 positions, right? So this is saying, so let I equal 0, right? And then we know that it's going to continue to add 1 to it until this becomes not true anymore, right? So they are then assigning inside of the loop. And this is kind of strange again. And I think I found out, actually, this is funny. This is what I think I found out the other day. I came on to, onto the, let's see, JavaScript. And I think I found where I was actually wanting to start this. Instead of the first steps, I think I saw the area where I was like, I really should have probably started here maybe. Let me see if I can find it real quick, because I was like, this seems like this makes a little more sense to start. Where was it? And it's just because well, to be honest, I guess a little bit, the documentation here, although very good, I kind of do feel like it's a little confusing. Because I feel like there should be, let's see, like JavaScript. Where was it where I just saw, like, it was complete beginner, JavaScript basics, and then it started though not with, it was more, it went right into, yeah, I think this was it here. And I was like, this is where I think I missed this. I really wanted to go through this one. And unfortunately, I think I started on the wrong one. Because I saw that first JavaScript area that said, like, first JavaScript first steps. So I started going down that road. And of course, since I did this on the fly and I didn't, wasn't really coordinating or really doing any planning to get this going, I just kind of went on here and said, oh, I really like MDN. I know that's kind of the de facto place for documentation for JavaScript, so let's start there. But I had remembered that there used to be this place on here where it was kind of like right away, it went right into what I kind of wanted to do, which is where it does like this. It kind of does like a quick hello world, right? Shows you a real simple thing just to kind of get your feet wet with JavaScript, right? And then right into the crash course. And like they went right into this, like this is what a variable is. Variables are containers to store values. Like I think this is super important. Like this is what I kept saying in the other two videos, that it felt a little off because you don't really know about any of this stuff. And even though it does say over here that you can that this is for anybody, even beginners, I felt like this is so confusing because here I am explaining this to you, right? What let input is, and you know, on a greeting, and HC, what's up? Thank you, sir, for coming by. I wasn't even sure if I was gonna make it tonight, to be honest with you. Oh, you're good. You're not late. I just kind of just started. Actually, I was just talking about how I think that, because I've used the Mozilla Developer Network before for JavaScript, and I had remembered being like, oh yeah, I really like that. That would probably be great to go down the list of that in a course, right, with everybody. And but I think I messed up and I went down the wrong path. Like there's this area here, and not that it's the wrong path. I shouldn't say that. We've learned some good things, and now I'm kind of don't know what I should do, because this is this JavaScript first steps thing here, right? And if you remember, like throughout the first other videos, I was kind of like, man, this seems like they're talking about a lot of stuff they haven't taught anything, you know? Yeah, that's why I said I don't think it's a waste, you know, because I think we've learned some things. I mean, I learned some things here too, which is kind of the point as well, you know. I'm here to help you all, but I'm also here to help myself stay on top of all this. It changes so quickly. But this is what I kind of wanted to do, was actually be more on like this route, which is kind of, I guess maybe because I'm more comfortable with the whole, and HC, maybe you've done it too, that they typically start you off with a really simple hello world thing, right? And then they get into the basics, and like that's what this is. And I was like, this is actually where I think I wanted to start with it. And because I kind of didn't do, unfortunately, my bad part, I didn't really plan very well, and I kind of just jumped on and did it on the fly, which is all good, you know. But unfortunately, it felt awkward too, because I was going through the other part of this, and they're like talking about things like arrays and objects, and I'm like, they haven't even taught you that. How do they expect you to know? But they kept kind of reiterating that, well, it's okay, we're just trying to show you the concepts. And I get that, but I feel like, for me at least personally, I like it to be real simple, broke down from the beginning. Like, just start me basic, like what is this, then tell me this, and that's what JavaScript, I look at it like, it's such a, like, there's just learn those simple things like variables, functions, arrays, objects, you know, like all those things, and then get into the like, oh, this is how you do a loop, and this is how you do that loop over an array, and all those things too, you know, or over an object for that matter. And it kind of didn't go that way in the first couple of videos, because I was on this thing, and I just think that I feel like this should almost be after that, you know what I mean? And maybe that's why it is dynamic client sides, I don't know, and it says first side. Maybe this is kind of more, but I could have sworn it even said at the beginning, like, this is for the beginner, like only prerequisite was, well, no, I guess it does say here, and an understanding of what what it is. It doesn't say you have to understand that strings are objects and learn how to use, yeah, you know. So this is funny. It's like a Christmas song playing. What's going on here? Okay, we can skip over that. Interesting. Still getting used to this music. I don't know what's going on. You know, I heard the DMCA thing's not as bad as they say. Maybe we'll go back to listening to like Laffy at least, because they were saying that like they're not coming down as hard on you. They're just like, you can't monetize on it. I don't really care about that. So they're just like, with YouTube especially, like I put up videos on there. In fact, let's see here real quick. Oh, I guess it went down. But I had some videos up here, and they like to do like video game music, huh? Wow, internet must be running slow right now. Look at that. Look at that lag. That's bad. It's usually pretty good. I have like a gig. This is who I used to listen to all the time right here. Like Lofty. Live now. I'm like, can I listen to that? But yeah, so what I was going to say is check this out. So if I go over to, I think it was in YouTube Studio. Let me see. We'll see. We'll see. How are you doing though, AC? How's things going for you? We had I know were aware. Thank you for your kind words about my grandfather's passing. So we had his services today. It went really good. You know, it was a good family. You know, together, and nice send off, and beautiful place that him and his my grandmother and grandfather. She passed before him. Beautiful place out in the middle of the woods. So it's really pretty. So it was a good day, you know. It was a good day. So sad to not be able to talk to him again or see him again, but he lived a long, great life, and so it was great to, you know, to say goodbye, and you know he's in a better place. So, but anyway, what was I showing you? Oh, here, videos. Where did it? I just wanted you to see this because this is kind of. So here, look, right? When I put up the first videos here, there was like a bunch of copyright claims on this. And so let's see, right? It actually shows you. It's just kind of interesting. It breaks down the music. But see, they're not like like it says up here, not affected. Like you can channel impact, not affected. The content and all that is all good, right? It's still available for public release. But this part, right? Monetization, ineligible. Even though you're not in YouTube partner program or whatever, like you can't monetize on other people's, you know, music. But I'm like, I don't care. That's fine. I don't need to monetize on. I don't care to. If I did, I would just donate it back to the cause anyway, you know. So I don't really care about that part. But yeah, I just thought. So what I've heard is that this is more of what they're doing, because everybody was a little freaked out when that first dropped. You know, the DMCA thing. Everybody's like, "What? They're gonna do what to us? Like, we just want to listen to some music." You know, and so from what I understand, a lot of streamers are saying like they're really not coming down, and the ones that they're really picking on are these people that have like 40 million followers and stuff that really could really do some real monetizing on somebody else's creative content. Which, yeah, I'm not trying to take anybody's, you know, hard work from them, you know, but you know, so. You know, if I had 40 million followers, then I would understand why they wouldn't want me to play, you know, Dead Mouse in the background, or, you know, whatever music that I might want to listen to that day, 30 Seconds to Mars or whatever, you know. But so yeah, so what it seems like they're doing is they're just telling you you can't monetize on it. They're not going to really shut you down, and at least I didn't mute the video at all. So I'm kind of like trying to figure out or know, because you know music's kind of a big part of the streams a lot of time. I think it helps a little bit to keep the entertainment value, I guess, and it'd be nice to be able to listen to music that you at least like. Like that's what I loved about Lofty, is if you've not ever listened to them before, it's like super chill. Let's go back to. I'm like, how do I get out of here? So anyway, that was my long story on nothing to do with JavaScript. So, but hey, that's fun, right? We're not only here to talk about code. We're here to talk about other things as well. We're gonna get there. Got it. Thanks. Thank you. Where was I at right here? I wanted to see like Like this stuff is great. Like look, it says live now. You know, how could they know? How could they know if I was listening? Let's see. Is this kind of this is usually what I used to like listen to in the background because it was all like boom. It was just all chill beats and stuff. 29 seconds of horribleness. That's funny though. You're like he's live or she's live. Right? So jazzy. Is it even playing? It's so quiet. Very laid back. Very laid back. Right? Come on, AC, right? Normally what I use. Right? Have you heard anybody getting slammed with that at all? With getting muted out or anything? I'd hate to get muted. Not that I'm like, think I'm some great person you need to listen to, but you know, like, you've told me that I brought value to you. So if it's value to you, that's good enough for me. If I can help one person with the knowledge that I've gained, you know, hey, that's what it's all about, right? You pass on to one person, they can pass it on to 20 more. Who knows, right? Or just help you out with getting where, not yet, right? I'm like, should I chance it? Let's chance it for the stream tonight and see what happens. Worst thing happens, we get muted, right? I mean, hey, you live, it's all, you know, you could just live on the edge, right? And just be like, live only, baby. You can't mess with me. I don't care if you mute me out. I've heard some streamers say that. They're like, I don't care if they mute me on the VODs. But I think when it's learning content, it's kind of important, right? To have that backup video to be able to go back and look and go, what did they say again about, what was that thing that he talked about, or she talked about, or they talked about, or whatever, right? Maybe Lofty's all chill and they don't care and they won't bring down the hammer on anybody. They'll be like, I'm cool with people streaming my stream. So anyway, back to what I was saying is like, I really kind of feel like this is where I wanted to start. So now I'm in a bind. Hey, me neither. Well, you know, we'll just keep doing it until they do it for once, and then I guess that's when we know we've made it, huh, HC? Hey! Thank you for the follow. Much appreciated. How you doing? Let me see how I can mess up the name on this. Ugh. I'm like, it's so small in my screen over there, it's hard to see. I'll just ask. What do people normally... I'm like, I don't want to mess up anybody's name. Can you write it out phonetically for me? Well, anywho, how are you doing this evening? Thanks for stopping in. We're just... Me and HC are trying to figure out where we want to start. We're talking music, actually, for a little bit, because we were kind of talking the whole DMCA thing and how much are they really cracking down or not. So we're risking it this evening. We're living on the edge. We're going to play Lofi hip hop. Coffee, actually, this is right. Coffee something. What does it say? Coffee Shop Radio 24/7. Come and hang out with me. We can do some JavaScript for free. I don't know how to rhyme or either, but I'll try anyway because it's fun. Why not? So we had been doing JavaScript basics, and we still are, but I just had this little predicament of thinking that I probably maybe didn't start on here where I wanted to. I feel like, what do you think, HC? Should we just go back over? Like, it'd almost be like a review. Let variables and containers store values, right? I don't know. Should we just go back through? Because I feel like this is so important. Because see how this flows? It's like, you know, talks about variables, talks about conditionals, right? Gets into the functions. So it gives you like a nice base for getting into, I think, going into the other where we were at, right? It almost feels like you needed to do this first and then go over to and do like the, over here, which was, what was this called again? JavaScript dynamic client-side scripting. First steps, like you'd be like, right, this is where you should start. It feels like it's better for people that are trying to learn it, don't you think? Like I kept on feeling like, I know you were on when in a couple of those streams, that right, I kept saying right, and the real beginning steps, because this really felt like they started talking about objects and arrays and things like that before they even taught it. And I understand like the mentality of what they were trying to do with like, oh well, let's just show them like what it can do. It kind of exposes you to what the language capabilities are and stuff like that. And I don't think that's necessarily a horrible approach, but I also feel like you got to kind of have some foundation though, right? You got to know what a variable is before you start telling people this is a variable. Like just like they just threw stuff in there like, hey, by the way, this is how you do this. Don't worry about it. Right, yeah, they kept saying don't mind it yet. And I'm like, but you kind of have to mind it. How do you go tell somebody about what a function and they don't really know what a function is? So now I'm kind of feel like I'm torn a little bit on which route we should go. Malice. Can I call you Malice? Malice Palaver. Oh look, now he says hi. Look at Cody over there. He doesn't have, I say he, but I think it's genderless, He's a bot, she's a bot, it's a bot, they're a bot, I don't know. You think we should start here too? Just start back from the, let's talk about variables. Should we just start right here? Boom! JavaScript is one of the most popular modern web technologies. As your JavaScript skills grow, your websites will enter a new dimension of power and creativity. This is true, right? You can bring your websites to life with JavaScript. However, getting comfortable with JavaScript is more challenging than getting comfortable with HTML and CSS. I would tend to agree, although I don't know, CSS is getting kind of crazy. There's a lot of things going on in there too, right? With variables and CSS methods and such. So I might argue this a little bit, but I know what they're saying. Like the basics of CSS, it can get kind of hairy, but I guess that's true, right? So you may have to start small and progress gradually. To begin, let's examine how to add JavaScript to your page. So this is like the typical, right? This is a hello world. Let's show you how to do this, and we kind of did. We did do this, right? What the difference between an external JavaScript file was and an internal JavaScript file, and the fact that you would, although you can put JavaScript in the same page as your HTML document, that typically you would be accessing an external in the same directory, or maybe a directory called JavaScript or something, or scripts, but to keep things more organized and more modular, separation of concerns, you break it apart and actually have it outside of the HTML document. And we saw how using defer allows you to, as an attribute on this script tag, will allow to say that the page needs to be fully loaded before this actually runs. Pause for coffee sip, sorry. So let's go ahead and let's just do this hello world. If you have VS Code, or you could actually, well, no, you have to do this in the browser. You cannot do, sorry, actually you could do it in the browser if you use, actually maybe we should do that. No, you can't. I mean, you can, but I was like, that'll be a little more complex. Let's not do that. So what we can do is, I'm just going to kind of size this out here. Maybe I should move it over to that side so my big head's not crushing in front of it, right? So let's just go ahead and let's see, where are we at here? We could do it in here, but let's let's do this. Let's see where I'm at here. Let's open up the terminal real quick. You can do terminal by terminal and that, or you can do control and the little backtick, and I believe that activates it as well in VS Code on your, if you're on a Mac, it's control and the backtick key, which is also the template literal that we use, is correct. So we are in JavaScript Basics. So what do we want to do? Should we just create? Let's do this. I'm gonna use make directory, Unix command, right? I'm kind of a Linux newbie myself. I've been a Windows person for a long time, and not that these are that much different, obviously, the same commands as you would use there, but yeah. So some of the things I'm getting used to, or you know, because it's a little bit different. But so let's make a directory in here. Let's call it, because we're in one called JavaScript Basics, but we could call it like what, part 1 or something, or I don't know. What do you think? Part 1 or like something? I don't know. What do you want to? Should we have a? Let's have a poll. Let's run a poll. No, just kidding. So make directory. We'll call it. Oh well, we could do that. Let's call it hello world. How about that? Because that's what we're gonna do, right? So we'll make a directory called hello world, and we'll change into that directory, right? So now I'll just over here. Actually, I think it'd be a little bit easier if I did this too, because then it won't look confusing. If I do this, let's see. Let me show you. I get it here. So if we just open this folder instead, I think it'll look a little bit, because I don't want those other JavaScript files to make things confusing. As we wait. All right, there we go. So now we have our hello world directory. We don't have anything in it, right? So let's create a new file in there. You can just right click and do that, and we'll do an index.html, right? So we have that. We found out this cool thing. VS Code, exclamation point, enter, bam! HTML template, done. Didn't have to type any of that. Magic. The magic of VS Code. It's amazing. Actually, it's pretty sweet. There's a reason it's like the most popular IDE in the web world, and other worlds for that matter. Coders love it. I had somebody at work that was a diehard Atom user, and he was like, "What are you using?" We were on like a Zoom meeting for work, and what is that you're using? How did you get all those icons? Because when in here, I'll show you. So I think they actually called this script, right? JS or something. What was in the let's see here. Scripts and main. Look, they're even doing the folder thing. So we could do that. I'm gonna delete this real quick. Just to do, we'll follow along with there. This is what I love too. Different ways to do stuff, right? You could right click in here, do new folder. You can click new folder here. You can open up the terminal and make a directory via the, your command line. So that's why I also love VS Code, very versatile. So we'll follow along. They calling it main JavaScript, which is not that, it's pretty common actually. You hear that one. So you do see this a lot too. Scripts, you'll see JS, you'll see JavaScript, so in there, we'll go ahead and create that new file. We'll do main.js, right? Ooh, if I could type, there we go, bam. Okay. Now we have an index, right? We have our main, and so let's see. So to get your test site, create new folder. We did all that, right? We created an index. Yep, did that. This is doing the same thing as the link element for CSS. It applies the JavaScript to the page so it can have an effect on HTML. Isn't that phenomenal? So in our first thing that we're going to go ahead and put in to our main.js is going to be, right? We're going to define a variable. Now this is where This is where, like, this is the only bit in that part, right? This is the only bit in that part that they talk about that you have no idea. Like if you were coming into JavaScript from the beginning, right? They're like, this is it. Where the other like flow around that other, basics, or what was it, first steps, JavaScript first steps, they went into so many different things that was well outside of our knowledge base, before we talked about any of it. They really got into some really heavy duty JavaScript, you know, uh, capabilities, I guess, if you want to say, right, or features. And so this is going to be the only piece that, but again, since we did do some of that, this won't be that far off. So, but I'll still explain, right? So we have a variable defined with a const, and a const means constant, and basically says that this variable cannot be changed. And the formal terminology, of course, is that it's immutable. And if this was the other, which is let, that is a mutable variable type, so that can be changed without receiving any error from the JavaScript engine, right? But in this case, we know that we do not want this to change, so we create it as a const. There is a third variable type called var. It is the original definition for variables, and it's not really used anymore, although you can still use it. But really, the let and const are the new way forward, and what's used for variable definition inside of ES6 and above. And so we are defining a variable called myHeading. You can name it whatever you want. That's the beauty of the variable. There are some rules. You don't want to start with a number. You don't want to start with a special character. You really kind of want to use either camel casing. Actually, very commonly, and this is actually a little tip, you'll see this a lot. So this is called myHeading. But you'll see on consts a lot of times they will create it as a fully capitalized variable name, just to separate, or I think it's kind of like a way for them to show you that one is a const and one is or one's like an immutable variable and one's immutable. It's a quick way visually to go, oh, that's something I can't change. And so I've seen this quite a bit, actually, and I think it's kind of a convention, or what do they call, like a best practice or something like that, just to go ahead and define your const as uppercase. But that's all up to you. You could do whatever you want. It's just something that might help you out when you start getting down in the weeds in the code. You go, oh, that's one of those, I can't change that. So what I got. And that may actually drive you to go, wait, that is something I need to change. Let me revert that to a let, because that happens too. You assume it's going to be something you don't want to change, and then you get through and you start coding, and then all of a sudden you go, oh, wait a second, actually that might be something I would want to swap. Like this could be something where you go, oh, this might not always be an H1. Maybe I do need to swap that out if somebody does an event action or something, right? And this needs to be like a turn into a paragraph or a tag or an H2 or something like that, right? So that would be changing the variable, and you don't want to. Anyway, so this is the only time we don't really talk about it. So text content is a built-in JavaScript, function that basically will change the HTML element text content. So you're right here. We're doing a document, right, which is the document object model. And then query selector H1 is looking through the DOM and looking for every single H1 that exists on it. And if it finds it, right, it's going to set the text content of every H1 that it finds to hello world. And in our case, there's only going to be one H1 on the page. This is also an important piece not to miss, that we put in our script tag. Why did that not complete? I should have auto-completed. Why did that not do that? So weird. Huh, why is that not doing that? That's weird, hold on. That's strange, what the heck? As I just gave VS, no, it's probably me messing up, but that's so weird. I don't understand why that, maybe because they want you to go straight into the, right, is that, yeah, I think, okay, yeah. So maybe that's why, because they want you to go straight into what you're going to define. So it's in the directory, right? So we actually put this inside. God, I am the worst typer in the world. Scripts slash, and it even hints you, which is nice, right? You get the little hint. Main.js exists there. And then in this case, we're just going to go ahead and do that. And so that closes that out. So now we have our reference to our external JavaScript, right? Not internal. If it was internal, we would do this, correct? We'd give it a, ooh, not an M. We'd give it a script tag like that, right? We just end it, and then we'd start doing some magic in here. Let HC webs, you know. Well, actually, right, if I was going to do that properly, we would, actually, this is what we like to do nowadays, right? Backtick everything. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, HC, I need to take a typing class. So, you know, so that would be internal, right? External is what's going on, right? Yeah. So, okay, so we got that down, and so we'll save that. We have our main.js with that, and so now, if you can copy the path or relative, but we'll go copy path. All right, let's go over to a browser, and let's see what we get here. What am I missing? All right, let's see what happened. Let's see what happened. Did show up on the page. This is good. Hey, why did you do that? Why did you do that? I don't like when it does that. Oh, I know why. I believe. Let's see here. It said, right? Our error was what? My heading is null, right? So it's saying that it doesn't see that. So we have our H1, right? Right, we got our H1 on the page, right? And you could even put like you could put default like content in here if you wanted to, right? Make sure we got everything named up right. Yeah. Hello world. Hello. Boom. Good to go. I'm just gonna get rid of this because this isn't part of it. That was just for fun. It's just for explanation. Okay, so our H1 is here, right? And so honestly, I'm having a feeling that this is part of this whole magic here. Let's see. Let's see if we do that. Bam! Right? What happened? What did we learn, right? That the HTML, everything loads from top to bottom, right? And so what happened? Boom, hit the JavaScript and said, go get that H1. But since JavaScript is a blocking script, right? The page stopped loading, and it reads the JavaScript and says, go get me that H1, and the H1 hasn't loaded yet. So that's where that beauty of the defer method, or the defer attribute property, attribute or property. I think both are valid. Although I think they would, I don't know. Actually, that's a good question. Like this was always referred to as an attribute. Well, maybe I'm thinking actually, now I'm questioning myself on my own knowledge here. CSS, everything is considered like attribute, you know, on the tag. So I don't know. Does it say in the hint here? Yeah, the attribute specifies. Okay, so I wasn't wrong. Whew. But I've heard it referred to as, now this is the Boolean attribute here. So they're all called attributes when it's on a tag inside HTML. That's kind of what I thought. But anyway, just want to make sure nothing changed. So our defer allowed the page to load and then go run the JavaScript, right? Make sure the page is loaded and then go and do this. Now there could be times, right? We said where you may not want the script to wait. You may want it to run or like load data in the background. And so you would just let that run off the bat and not have to worry about it because it's not really affecting anything in the actual painting of the page is what they actually call it when the page is loading, which is you can see very blatantly in the, or very plainly, I should say, in DevTools, especially like in Chrome and their fire charts. You can look at all the paints and all that goodness that's a whole nother subject matter right there, getting into browser optimization and all that stuff. So anyway, so what we did is we used the defer attribute here on the script tag to go ahead and wait for the page to load and then run our JavaScript. If you didn't do this and you still wanted that to work the same way, you could do it the old school way, of taking this tag and moving it down to the last element inside of the body tag. And to prove that, I'll just leave it there, and I took the defer off. And if we go over here now, if I'm not lying to you, this should still run and still show you the hello world. Boom, there you go. It's good to go. And that used to be the way you did it before the defer attribute existed, right? So, but since this is the new way to do it, we'll go ahead and leave that there, right? And we'll go back just to make sure, and we look here again, and we still have our hello world, and we're working. Bam! So there we go, right? We did our first hello world with an external script, and we're right. Now, why didn't I get the cool, fancy, you know, why doesn't mine look like that? You should see something like this. Lies. Why did they say that? Lies. It's not gonna look like this. Firefox logo and blue text and all that. That could be kind of confusing to somebody, right? Unless they threw something in there I missed, like did they give you like a starter file? Hello world is a standard instruction program example. Oh, they did. Look, download this sample code. Yeah, but we did it the right way. Basics. We did the base. Oh, really? Seriously? Got to like download a zip file. We'll just skip that. As you well know, right? Since you've done HTML and CSS, you know that this is being applied with CSS, the blue lettering and the shadowing and the box here, the div most likely, with the orange background and a black border and the Firefox logo in the middle. That is all being done by CSS. So we could do that, but the basics is just knowing that how to get the script to run on your page. And we did that. See this, the reason the instructions above place the script element near the bottom of the page is that browser reads code in order. Did we explain that, right? So if the JavaScript, yep. But we're using the fancy new way, right? We're not going old school. We're gonna go new school. So, so we explained that. We talked about, we can skip right past that because we already talked it. That's all just the talking about how the query selector selects as the H1 and all that goodness. So basics crash course. So here we go. So that's it, right? They talked to us about the styles. The styles. Styles are right what make everything look pretty on your page. That is really, I mean, there are people that literally just specialize in CSS now. It used to not be that way. It wasn't really, I guess it really wasn't progressed enough along to where it needed, or really could be, I guess, a job solely on its own. Now, granted, you know, UI people were in existence, but they did a lot of everything. But now there's people that literally just like, that's all they do is like CSS and style guides and design, you know, just I'm trying to think of the word right now. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But yeah, like there's like was it Emma Vatican? She's a really popular web developer, but I mean she focuses a lot on design systems. That's the word I was looking for. Design systems and stuff. And so it's, you know, it's a whole field in itself. You could literally like never learn JavaScript probably, and I mean that might be a little far-fetched, but you know, you wouldn't have to like necessarily be a hardcore JavaScripter to be able to like get into the web development field anymore. You could focus on the design side of things. You could focus on, you know, the more you know, interactive parts, which is JavaScript, and of course the whole this JavaScript that starts leading you down the road of, you know, doing data, you know, and manipulating data and stuff like that as well. So JavaScript's very powerful, and especially once you start going to the back end with like Node.js, it really starts to take off when you start seeing what I can like upload files and query databases and do all this stuff on the back end and bring that back to the front, all in the same language. That's the beauty of it, and why I love it even more now than than before, is that it's like JavaScript really has come a long way, and now backend, it's not a fad. It's been around for over 10 years with Node.js around, and it just continues to excel. So with that, let's just talk real quick. So the let variable, right? So variables are containers that store values. We kind of know that. You start declaring a variable with var, right? Less recommended. Dive deeper for explanation. So we know we've discussed var and let, and we talked about how let is a mutable variable. So it's something you can use to define, values that you can change, where a const is something that you cannot, and immutable. So this is how you would define a variable without any value, right? Let my variable. A semicolon at the end of a line indicates where a statement ends. It only required when you need to separate statements on a single line. However, some people believe it's good practice to have semicolons at the end of each statement. There are other rules for when you should and shouldn't use semicolons. So there is, and in all honesty, you don't have to use them at all in JavaScript anymore. You don't even have to use curly braces if you don't really want to. But it's highly recommended to continue to do that, because the curly braces show where scope exists, and we'll talk about what scope is as we continue down this road of learning JavaScript. And my apologies for not actually being more prepared. I really should have really done a little bit more, research and whatever before I started kind of going down this road of showing you or teaching JavaScript, I guess. So my apologies on that end, but I think we can make it through and be okay. So these are just some notes. You can name variable nearly anything. We said that, but there are some restrictions. So they talk about the naming rules. Like I said, don't start it with a number. Don't start it with a special character. Typically, variables are case sensitive. So like my variable here, camel case, is different than my variable here. Those are two different variables. So if you define both of those and you're expecting to see the value of this inside of this, you'd be wrong, because it's not going to show up. And so that is an important thing to remember. So after declaring a variable, you can give it a value. So they're showing here, like, they define let. Now, typically you'd assign it all in one. So you also can do both of these operations at the same time, this is more common. You do see that more commonly with the default value set. And then you retrieve the value by calling the variable name. So you can easily, we can kind of just emulate this. If you wanted to if you actually just wanted to kind of play along, you could do let I'm just going to shorten it, my var equal, and here you could, I just use this right now. They're doing Bob. You can put the semicolon on the end like they're saying, and then they're saying all you have to do is call it by saying my var like that, and there's Bob, right? Bob, what's up, Bob? Let's see where we at. Okay, so sorry, just checking over to make sure that I'm not losing the stream here, because earlier I was dropping frames. So after assigning a value to a variable, you can change it later in the code, right? You can change which one? Var and let. Those are the two that you can change. Const, you cannot. But we're learning only about let right now. So that variable that we defined, Bob, if we just say now my var, right, and I assign it a new value like Stever. I like that, Stever. Let's get it Stever. So now when I do that, and if you go and look at it now and say show me my var, you'll see now it's set to Stever. It's not Bob anymore, right? Easy. You can change the value. Very amazing. And that will happen all the time. Yeah, and so this is what's great. We discussed this too. Variables hold many different type of values, different type of data types. So it can hold a string, it can hold a number, it can hold a boolean, it can hold an array, it can hold an object, that includes a function. So you could actually define a variable as a function. Or sorry, you can define, yeah, right, yeah, you can assign a function to a variable, I guess is the way I should have said that. So it really, variables are very powerful, and you will use them all over the place. So why do we need variables? Variables are necessary to do anything interesting in programming. That's kind of just what we said. Hey, Mohammed, what's going on, buddy? If values couldn't change, then you couldn't do anything dynamic. That is very true. Like personalize a greeting message or change an image displayed in an image gallery. So comments, pretty simple, right? Block comments, single line comments. So double forward slash or slash asterisk and out with an asterisk slash that you can write it. Everything with inside these here is going to be a comment. Like it says, everything in between. Otherwise, it's just one line, and you could, I mean, people do that too. You could do one line and then next line slash slash and then do another line if you're just doing like 2 lines. People do that too sometimes. It's up to you. Just get your comment in there, right? It's all that matters. So operators, we definitely discussed this because we went through the whole math section. Mohammed, we're kind of, HC and I decided that, well, because I found out that I kind of started on the wrong spot that I wanted to. We won't talk about that. We won't talk about that. We still learned good things. But we really wanted to get down to the basics, right? Like, give us the basics before you start telling us about all this craziness that you're showing us that we don't know what you're talking about. So, anyway, this is where we're at. What you been up to? Everyone loves math, right, HC? I love it. I just don't know how to do it well. Right? That's my stance. But let's see. I thought I had some new ones here. Oh, that's only when you're on channel, huh? Let's see if that's still working. Ah, kinda, sorta. Why do they just fade out? They don't fall. They used to bounce all over the place. Okay, so right, so we went through the whole math thing, right? And everyone loves math, like HC Webb says. I just let him do the math for me because he's better at it than me. So we know it can do addition, it can do subtraction, multiplication, everything. It can do all of it, right? So again, like I've stressed so much throughout the whole thing, I'll give you details on Whisper so I don't interrupt the show. Oh, cool, man. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you don't have to, it's not interrupting. I mean, that's cool. We're kind of just, we're we're going through, but we're chatting, you know. That's kind of what makes it all fun, you know, is other things that come into the into the chat and everything else. So, you know, feel free to share. It's all good. We can break away from things here to talk about other people's stuff too. Sharing's caring, as they say. So again, the big thing is what, right? To remember that it does math, it has math, and you can just, you know, all the syntactical stuff. That's all you can look up. You know, it's the big thing is remembering that remembering the concepts and that the capability exists within inside the language. That's what is so crucial. You know, if you just know it can do math, the fine details, or that's what Google's for, right? Or another search engine. Is there any at this point? I mean, come on. Does anybody even say let's go Bing that? You know, I mean, it just doesn't happen. Not saying it's a bad thing. It's just the way it fell out. You know, Google just got people's mindsets wrapped around saying GTS, right? Google that shit. And then it became mainstream, and that's what everybody says. Nobody ever talks about any other search engine. They don't exist, even though there's plenty of them. I use like DuckDuckGo a lot. Stuff like that, right? Protect your search. So again, equality, we talked about, you know, the equality operator, and why the triple equals is so important, because it will not evaluate properly, right? If you do 1 is equal to, equal to say 1 that says true, which is wrong because that's a numeric on the left side there, right? That's a number. And so on the right is a string. And so how is a number equal to a string? It's not true. It's a liar. And that's why we use the strict equality operator with the 3 equals, just because JavaScript wants to be different and weird. Embrace weird, right? Weird's awesome. Where do they? You go to Austin, it's painted on the walls. Keep Austin weird. Also, Portland, I think, is big on that too. Because it's fun to be different, right? Everybody was the same, it'd be so boring, right? So what's great about this chat, you get to meet people from all over the place, right? You have, we have New Zealand people, we have people from, that have dropped in from all over, like actually, Canada and different parts of the US, Germany. So yeah, it's that's the best thing about like meeting people on stream. I think is you get to like drop it. Like who is it? Chemical X. I try to catch up with him, but he's like in Israel, so it's like his stream comes on at like 3 and 4 in the morning or something for my time, and but sometimes I'm up quite a bit early sometimes like that. Unfortunately, I don't sleep great all the time, so that like a lot of us, but so I'll catch him sometimes in the morning, and we chit chat. He runs he kind of does the same thing. He's actually, although he's learning it completely, so he runs through the free code camp. So I highly check him out. He's super cool. He does this great stuff with beats online too. He like does voice beats and horns and stuff with his mouth at the end of streams. It's fun. He's a cool dude, and so he's somebody to check out. But yeah, if you're in the U.S., he might be on some weird time frame. You might be real early or real late in the night or whatever. So we did the equality. You see why that's important, because it doesn't tell you the truth if you try to just use the double equals. So we don't even talk about that when you talk about equality. We want to make sure that it's really equal, just like everything else should be. Take that as you will. This returns. Okay, so the exclamation point is the not operator, and so when something's not equal to, right, you can say, so like in here, right, we say 1 is not equal to 2. That's true, right? 1 not equal to 1, that's false, right? Because it is equal to. So that's the not operator, and comes in very handy. You'll use it, definitely. So, okay, we got the understanding of that. This is for not, the basic expression is true, but the comparison returns false because we negate it, right? Okay, I think that, I think we got that down. All right, cool. So now we move on into conditionals. So this is our if statements, right? When you're testing something, you want to see. Yeah, right. I think he's on to React now, Mohammed. I think, right. He's like doing the React stuff. I was on the other. Oh God, it might have been last week now. Actually, this has been a crazy week with everything that's been going on. But yeah, I think he moved on to React. We were trying to just kind of express to him how, because he's going through the free code camp one, and they only teach like the class components, and was just trying to let him know, like, oh, wait until you, because he was like, this is really confusing, and several people in the chat were like, dude, you got to look at hooks, man. You got to look at React hooks because it's so much cleaner, so much easier to understand, and it's the way that they're moving forward, right? It's not that like it's just a different way, or really it's that they saw there was that class components was not the best way to do their implementation, and so they functional components is actually the better, more performant, optimized way to do the type of work that React does. And so that's where they came out with React hooks. And that's really the way you should be doing it now. So, but Free Code Camp hasn't caught up with that so far. And not that it's bad to go and learn the class component style of React, because you probably will run into, if you are trying to get into React development, or you already develop, yeah, that's the same thing, sorry. If you're getting into React development, you're going to see other people's code, and there's going to be a lot of code out there with class components, because that's how it was written for many years before hooks came out. Hooks came out in, I think, 16.6 version of React, which was I think it was like a year and a half ago now or something, roughly. So yeah, he's really progressed on. Hi, Code Hustle. Thanks for saying hi, Cody. I don't know why, but appreciate the hi. It's the first time I've seen you work in a while. Although you did work for Malice, I think. So anyway, conditionals, right? Conditionals are code structures used to test. That's what we said, test if an expression returns true or not, right? So this is how we know to do something or not do something. A very common form of conditionals if-else statement, right? So for example, here, we are defining a variable with let, right? And this is what's great about this. You can do all this in the console, right? So let's trash that. And that's funny. Oh, I never hit enter. That's why that's trash that. So you can go ahead and do the define, right? So we'll go ahead and say let ice cream equal chocolate. And a let, right, is a changeable variable. So they're doing that. Now on this first line in the console, you have to do shift enter if you want to keep that without entering it. Otherwise it'll enter that as and that wouldn't be a big deal in this case, because it's still going to see it as it'll see the defined variable ice cream regardless. So now if you do if, right, ice cream is equal to chocolate. Okay, right? And then you do this. Now, this is where the console's a little smarter. When it sees the curly braces like that and you hit enter now without the shift, it knows to go inside and it won't. So here they're saying, although I'm not going to do alert because this won't run. So I'll do console. Although I don't know, does that actually work? I don't think I've ever alerted in the console. Well, let's try it. This is new for me too, actually. That's funny. I just thought about that. I'm like, I don't think I've ever alerted in the console. I've done it in the browser. In the in a JavaScript file. But I don't know if I've ever done an alert in the. I normally do console.log because I'm in the console, right? So I'm like, let me see what I need to see. But let's see if this works. I'm kind of curious, actually. This is true. Actually, this is a true statement. I love chocolate. Ice cream. You ever see that Eddie Murphy skit from back in the 80s? Eddie Murphy Delirious, the first one of his most famous ice cream. You got no ice cream. You didn't get no. You can't afford it. It's so hilarious. He was a trip. That's the funny shit. Eddie classics. So we have our alert, right? So we're saying if the ice cream is equal to chocolate, meaning what? Our test is true. Ice cream does equal chocolate. Then what it's going to do, right, is going to fall into this area, fall into the God, I can't talk tonight. Into these braces here, and it's going to say alert, yay, I love chocolate ice cream. Maybe it should say, yay, I love ice cream chocolate too. Otherwise, which is an else, right? Else alert. Aww. They're saying, aww, but why do they have to use this? Chocolate is my favorite. ... Okay, cool. All right, so we got our thing. Let's see if this is gonna work. I'm kind of curious. Is this gonna alert for us or not? I don't know. This is weird. Let's check it out. All right, so if we hit enter. No, see, I had a feeling that would happen. So I don't think we can do this again without changing, because it's gonna say this is already defined. Let's do this. because once this is defined inside the console, you have to change this, otherwise it sees that that's already been defined. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here. So that's good. That was actually good, because I was wondering if that would actually alert inside of the browser like that. I kind of thought it might not, but I was like, hey, wait, let me just try it out. I've never tried that before, so let's see. That's another thing, right? Experiment, see, try it, see what happens. Cool. All right, so we have two console logs now. We renamed the variable. Let's see what happens here. So now you can see it, right? Yay! I love chocolate ice cream too, because ice cream flavor is chocolate, right? So we do a test. If the ice cream flavor is equal to chocolate, then log this out. Otherwise, say, but chocolate is my favorite. So, bam. Sorry, this is ahead of others, but what the scope of console? Is it window? That's a good question. I don't think I know the answer to that, Mohammed. We could look it up real quick. Yeah, right? I don't know. Well, no. Well, if it did, right? If it existed on the window, wouldn't it be window dot? Let's see. No, see, there is. Oh no, it does. There it is, right there, console. So I guess it isn't. It is a. It is an object on the. Rogelio, how are you doing? Oh darn, we're dropping frames again. Hopefully that doesn't get too weird for you. Yeah, so look, window console is on the window, Mohammed. Let's see what's in it. So obviously console is an object, right? And it has these method functions, see? Assert function, clear function. This is what we run, right? When we're clearing the window, right? I type this, right, in the thing, and that's what clears it. I mean, where the variables get saved. Yes. Yeah, it should be window. You should be able to see, right? Actually, no, those are not. You mean the variables saved on the window? No, I think these are actually. That's a good question too. Ooh, you're getting me all thinking this tonight. Good sir. What'd you say? I mean, where the get star. What do you mean by that? Is that you know something I don't know? Tell me. Share the love, Mohammed. It's all about teaching each other, right? The console, you know, I actually haven't, other than just using it as a debugger, I haven't really dug crazy into it. You know, I use it for throwing out what I need to see in my output. Like if I'm looking for a specific, like if I want to dump out like a REST API's return JSON object and stuff like that to, you know, dig into the data. You know, I console log stuff like that, and to just do tests and stuff. But yeah, I've never really dug deep enough into like where does it get stored in the browser, and but that's a good question. That's a great question. And now you have me curious about it. So I'm like, how do you? So it's got, let's see, type window in the previous page. Previous page. You mean still in here? I'm confused now. And see if there's a variable ice cream there. Well, there is one. I mean, this still exists here in this window where we defined it. I don't know if that's what you mean, but ice cream is not. I guess that's a good question. I don't know how whether that's being stored. Like, where is that being stored? That is a good question. Where do console defined variables get stored? Would that be the right question? In the page of the tutorial. So here, but that is where I'm confused now. This is that. I'm not sure what you mean. I'm sorry. I don't mean to sound. I'm not sure. So this is the tutorial, right? That we were just going through, right? This is the console for it, because it should be. I don't know how you can tell that either, because I opened up another console over here. See, there's nothing there for that. So I thought everything is stored in each page. You mean across consoles? Like, because this console is opened up here, actually under this tab. This other, right? Actually, I lie. I think that is. And we could just. I mean, to really test that, I would just have to. But I'm pretty sure that each tab page, when you open the console for that page, it only exists in that console on that page, if that makes sense. And then if you were, say, on this one and you opened up another console for this page, those are completely two separate they're like two different like scopes, like two different memories or whatever they're using to store that. Type this in the console and see what is the context. This will be window, yeah. It's gonna be the window, and then you can see it should be this one. Or is it this one? Yeah, it's this one, useful string methods. So it's actually on this window. I just happen to use this console to type in the stuff from this page. That doesn't matter. See, but it doesn't exist like on the window. So that variable doesn't exist on the window. But that, again, it does make me curious. Like, where do they store? Where do they store it? Because I mean, it's there, obviously. You know, you can see it right there. But I guess it's a console. They must store it in some memory space or something that's in the console itself. I gotta assume. Again, we could look it up. I mean, but just taking guesses and testing that, what you just had me do actually kind of tested that theory, right? It doesn't see it on the window. It doesn't see it in the console object. So it's obviously being stored in some piece of. Now I'm curious. You got me really curious about that. Where is console variables stored? This is more my kind of background music. We'll see if we get muted. How can I add a variable to console log? No. Using variables postman. Okay. Python console variables. Wow. Your wiki guide. Let's see. No. Trying to see if there's a. Maybe I should say, where is window dot console variable stored? Maybe that'll give me a more refined. Is it possible to turn console log into a no. Now it's going to get me annoyed. What object are JavaScript global variables stored in? They're stored in window, but that we're not doing like a real. So if you define, like, let's do this. So this was our actual real page right here, right? And if let me see. Oh, I think I did open this up already. I hate that it is opening this up over here though, and not. Let's do this. I think this is. Where is the little thing? I'm kind of getting used to the Firefox thing here. Dock bottom. Let's see if that'll go. Yeah. Okay. So now we're over here again. So like we got two consoles. We're getting crazy. Yeah, I'm gonna look right now. I think we're gonna find it. What was I doing? So in here, a variable like now the let one will not be there. I don't believe. Because it's not supposed to be. That's part of the whole scoping issue that let and const fixed, right? So if we go and look at our actual page here, if we were to say define a let's do it old school, right? var equals, var, what do we want to call it? Var, whatever. Window test. Let's call it win. Come on, win test. Okay, equals, and we'll just give it a simple testing global vars. Right, so we'll just do that, and we'll save that, and then we'll go back over here and we'll refresh this page real quick. Right, and so now, if we look at, well, first of all, I should right off the bat be able to say, what did I call it? But look, even my heading is there. Yeah, so see, that's even stored on the window. Let's see if we do it this way too, like you really dig into. Oh, that's interesting. I really would have thought it had been. It should be on the globals. Well, hold on. Let me before I start lying. Okay. Let's. What did I call that again? Win test. So see, win test is there, right? Window dot win. So here you go. So see, so that's interesting. Was that on there too, right? Window dot my heading. See, so here's a good thing, right? We just found out, right? So man, hopefully this isn't coming across. I'm seeing a bunch of drop frames, so tell me if this is starting to sketch out on the video. But so when you define a global variable, which you can do with var, because var doesn't have any scope, right? It's always on the global variable window is where all global variables are stored. And now on consts and stuff, that's part of the benefit of let and const is that it doesn't store them globally. They are scoped. And so, and we haven't really talked about that, so I won't go into depth about it. But what is important, I think, is that you see that when you do that look on the window object, right? That you can see that when you look at my heading, which does exist, right? We know it does. It's undefined, right? It says it doesn't exist on the window. But if you look at window dot my, did I call it my test? I always forget. What did I call it? I'm sorry, that's not it. My win test. Ugh. So you do window dot win test. Now you see that does exist on the global window object, right? And that's the problem. And that was the problem with var, is that you would define these and they're accessible. You're able to get to them from anywhere, and that can be problematic when you start getting into, trying to build more secure code and everything else. So there's some security issues behind having global variables, potentially, and not necessarily, but it's a potential issue. And so let and const allows you to be more strict in defining your variables that have more scope to them. And so that was weird. What in the heck just happened? Oh, I just lost internet. Damn, did that come back up? I don't even know. Are we still running? Did you see that? Bam. So Mohammed, we're on the same page with that, right? I guess right now. So like vars will globally store that variable on the window object, but things like const and let do not store in the window object. Or that's a good question too. Does it still store in the window object, but it is just hiding it because of the definition of the variable? That's actually an interesting. That's really getting into that's like the real engineering behind how everything is implemented, right? So okay, cool, because I just had a huge blip. The screen just, you saw it, like had a tab like blew up right there and stuff, so I don't know what happened. But yeah, so I think we're on the same page, and sorry for kind of going off kill there or whatever, off topic a little bit. Not off topic. I guess that's the good thing about this, right? It drives you down different things, and we start finding out different things about all the different elements of JavaScript, and it also helps us kind of get into the console and mess around. We get to see all the different things, the APIs that exist, and so I don't think that's a bad thing. Like kind of going off course here and stepping outside of where we left off, because we dug into this, right? We were like, hey, where's that ice cream thing defined, you know? And so we went down that path. We got to see the console and how some of that is stored and how it works. So that's good stuff. So thank you, Mohammed. Appreciate it. That's what streaming's for, right? Yeah, cool. That's why I was like, you know, you were talking about your games for a contest. Put it out there, you know. Maybe that'll spark something for somebody else, you know. It's all good. We can talk about whatever, you know. So okay, so we looked at the conditionals here, and there's many different, right? We could do many different types of tests in here. We could have done not equal to, right, chocolate, ice cream, or we could have done, you know, well, in this case, that'd probably be about as far as you'd go, because, right, you're just checking to see what ice cream is, whether it is equal to or not equal to, or you could actually do like whether it's null or not. So, right, we're always learning new things. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. I think anytime we go down a road of like kind of takes us off course, sometimes that's when you learn the most things, because you have to like start messing with it and you go, oh, wait, that's not what I expected. And stuff here just now just shocked me a little bit. I was like, wait, I kind of didn't expect that, and whatever. So, but it's great. We get to learn. We get to learn. Okay, so we pretty much got through that and understand the basics of a conditional, right? So functions, even though we did discuss these a little bit before, functions are basically like actions, right? They're ways to make things happen, and it's a good way to be able to even HC's giving you some props out there. Mohammed, he's letting you know he appreciates your input. Yeah, so functions, you know, is a way of packaging functionality that you wish to reuse. It's possible to define a body of code as a function that executes when you call the function name in your code. This is a good alternative to repeatedly writing the same code. This is very true. The dry, as they call it, methodology, which is don't repeat yourself. You'll see that referenced sometimes in different tutorials and stuff like that. And that's basically exactly what it says. You know, try not to repeat yourself. Try to write code once and reuse it as much as you can. That helps with code optimization and performance and stuff, right? So you have already seen some uses of functions previously. So for example, we saw the built-in, you know, browser functions that exist in the web APIs that are there, right? And so this is just showing you one of them, that the functions document query selector and alert are built into the browser, right? Those are things that are just gimmies. You get those for free, which is good stuff. So if you see something which looks like a variable name but it's followed by parentheses, right, it's likely a function. That's a big indicator, right? The parens is how you see, like here, right? As soon as you see that, that's usually a function. And if you see something inside of it, that's a parameter. This function takes something. It takes an argument or a parameter and does something with it. In this case, this function has the capability of iterating over the document, right? It looks and iterates as that's like a loop. That's what iteration means. When you hear that or see that, you're looping over the document object model, the DOM, right? This page, basically, if you want to think of, and you're going and saying, hey, get me every H1. And so that argument is what's being passed into this function, because this function needs you to tell it what you want to query for. What are you looking for? If you don't put anything in there, it doesn't know what you're looking for. It says, that's great, you want to query and you want me to select something. What do you want me to select? What do you want me to query? You got to tell me. If you don't tell me, I don't know, and then I can't give you any results, and then you're not gonna get anything feedback. How are we gonna know? Like all that, you know? And so you got to tell it something. So in this case, we say, boom, give me the H1s. Give me all the H1s. So we pass that in as a string, right? Because that is what the query selector, how it expects when you're looking for a tag, an HTML tag, you do it just like this inside of a string or inside of quotes, right? Now, if this was a class or a ID on an HTML element, you would put a hash or a number sign in front of this, and it wouldn't be called an H1, most likely. You'd call it something else, heading or something, you know, or a dot period to define a class name as what you're looking for, right? And that's the beauty of this query selector, which is, you know, been around for a while now, but you used to have to always do, you know, get element by ID or get element by class name, right? And so now you can just use this one method, and the way that you are able to get at those elements is you just change up the or what would you call that, I guess, the expression that you're passing in with either a dot period or a hash number sign. I'm trying to use all the different definitions they use for it. And then, or you don't do anything, you just give it the tag name. So if you just wanted to get all the H1s or the H2s or every P paragraph tag, you just put a P in there, right? And then it knows it's an HTML element to go look and pull out. Did we get through that? All right. So these functions, and then alert, of course, is also a built-in one. It's to get feedback. Console log is another, right, method that exists that you can call to allow, which I like better because alerts stop your page from loading. So when you are doing, typically when you are running a page and you are trying to debug it, or you're trying to, you know, build it out and work through data and different things like that, most likely you're not going to want the page to run and then stop and alert you of a thing and then continue on and then alert you. I mean, you may, but most likely what you're going to do is you'll use console logs and it'll output all that stuff into your console, and then you can go look at it and go, okay, there's my JSON object that came back from my Twitter API, so I can look into, you know, applying that. There's that. I wanted to make sure that this was set correctly, so you console log that out. You know, there's a lot of different, you know, you can, how do I want to say that? I just think it's a better way to be able to debug and do things, because it loads the whole page. You get to see all the output in one shot, and then you're good. There are use cases where you probably want to use an alert, like if you're doing a prompt like that, you know, which is kind of old school. You probably wouldn't do that as much anymore. But just know that when you do an alert, it actually stops the page from loading. So nothing else below that in the JavaScript file is going to run either. So as soon as you alert in a JavaScript document, the JavaScript stops running too. You know, so everything below that alert is not happening yet. So that's good to keep in mind, because you may be like hitting alert and expecting something else to happen afterwards. It's not gonna. That's where the console log comes in, because it just logs it out and continues running the code. It doesn't stop. So that's where the benefit, or the, you know, it's kind of the differences between the two. Hopefully that maybe is a little helpful as well. So you can also define your own functions. So that's the benefit. Custom functions, if you want to call it, right? I'm going to build my own functions. Name them whatever you want. Doesn't have to be predefined. Yeah. So here's a simple one, right? Takes two numbers as an argument and multiplies them. So let's open up our console here so we can play along, right? And so we can do the same thing. So we can say function. It's important to type it correctly. Function, right? And then we'll call it, this says multiply, but just to show that it's, you could say sum, right? So let's do that instead, because you know, whatever. And then this could be num1, and here, just I'll even show you. You could n1, right? Just to show you that you can do whatever you want. You don't have to name them specific anything. Just do that, and then we're gonna go ahead and define this variable result, right? And we're going to equal that to n1, and we know that the mathematical operator for Multiplying in this is the asterisk or splat or star, and people call it all kinds of things. N1 times N2, right? I'll go ahead and do, oh, nope, sorry. Oh, let me go back up here because I did that twice. N1, N2, there we go, right? And then we're gonna go here. Oh, darn it, why did you, I thought that would go. My bad, guys. Oh, and I did a syntax error. That's why typing is so important. Hold on, let's see if it'll let me take this again without. That should not be a dot, that should be a comma. Apologies, my bad typing. It gets me every time. So let's get into this. Let's see if we can salvage this one. And then we're just gonna return the result, right? From this function. That's how you can get the thing back out of that function, right? So now if we say sum, right, and then we pass in numbers like 4 and 7 like they are showing here on the next here you go. See, try running the code in the console, and that's what we're doing down here. And we can see, oh, maybe not, my little dude is standing in the way. That's kind of difficult now, isn't it? Let's do this. Let's dock it to the right, dock it to the left, and dock it to the right. Okay, cool. So that's, can you see that? Yeah, okay, it's above my head now. Sum and operator. Yeah. So you can see now that when I call that function now, and I give it parameters or arguments, right? It goes and it multiplies that and it returns the result back, right? This is where the beauty and the reuse of this is. You can keep multiplying different, numbers together to get whatever it is you're trying to do inside your code, right? And I just called it sum. We could have called it pizza. It wouldn't have mattered. It could have been times these together, multiply these together, whatever. You could name it whatever you want. So the biggest thing is that you can see that the takeaways, you can now do, math in here. Oh, sorry. I don't know why I did that. And you get your output, your result. 680 is what, this is what I need because I'm horrible at multiplication. So I'll just cheat, build a function for myself and just do that. Why not? Don't tell anybody I'm cheating. So cool, right? So function, very simple. Function is how you define it, right? And then you give it a name, and then you use parentheses, and that's what they said, right? That when you see the parentheses, that it's a good indication that what you're dealing with is a function. That's very true. So a very simple function with the name you want to give it, throw some parameter or throw some parentheses around it, and then in this case we're going to give it some values to deal with, right? Because we want to do something with these, and so we pass them in, and then what we're doing is we're defining a new variable, and we're doing it with a let because this could change, and it's gonna, right? We just called it 3 times and it gave it different values, right? So this is going to change it. So that's why we make it a let, not a const, right? So then now we take those parameters that we got passed in and we say, okay, hey, now let's make this variable equal to the result of this. So we say number 1 times number 2, right? Gives us the total in the result here. And then what we say is, this is the key word here, return inside of a function. This is, how you return any result or outcome of your whatever you've done in your function back to the program. So sorry, excuse me. So we return this variable result, and that gives us back our our value here of doing our multiplying, right? Pretty simple. Return statement tells the browser to return the result variable out of the function, so it's available to use. This is necessary because variables defined inside functions are only available inside those functions. This is where we start talking a little bit, and I won't go too far, but is scope. When you see these curly braces are good indications, and how you know that everything inside of here is within inside, they say this scope, right? Everything's scoped within inside of these curly braces. So in order to get this result or the value back out of the scope, right, you have to use the return keyword and then return back the result. You also could do something like you can do like function, I'm gonna call it my fn, right? I'm not gonna give it any parameters, and I'm just gonna say return. Now this would not be very helpful, right? Because this is not, oh, I'll show you, but this is not gonna be very helpful because this would not be able, you would never, you couldn't reuse this really. Well, I mean, I guess you could, you can reuse it. It's not very flexible, so it's kind of a very strict function, and maybe you needed that, like maybe you just need this to do one specific thing that you don't ever pass it anything. So in this case, like I'm just defining a new function, I'm calling it my function, I'm not giving it any arguments or parameters, and all I'm going to do is return something back. So you could actually just do return 2, you know, times or multiplied by, let's 3, let's just say, right, do that, right? And then if I call my function, and you call it by, right, doing my fn and showing the parentheses after, because that's how you call a function, right? And there you go, right? I get 6. So you could do that. You know, you don't have to do, you can just do a quick return on it and get a value out of it, but that doesn't really make it very dynamic, right? Or very flexible. So typically you wouldn't see that, but just to show you that what this does is just return values. It doesn't have to have been defined before or anything like that in any type of variable. You can literally just, you know, return whatever you want. Like you could like if we created a new well, that wouldn't work. So you could do a new function, my string, right, something like this, and you could just go return right, boom, there you go. Hello, Code Hustle. So, or in this case, hello, Code Hustlers, right? More than one. And so, yeah, so just so you're aware, you know, that's all this does. This is just the return of a value. So you can do a lot of things with this, and you can get kind of, there's some things you can do in here sometimes that are helpful. You can, like, anyway, I don't want to go too far into it, but just know that it's just really a way to return values, right, out of a function. And this, look, they talk about it here. We say, so this is necessary because, right, variables defined inside functions are only available inside those functions. This is called variable scoping. So we could talk about that a little bit. So there's a good example. I was hoping they'd had that on here. Let's just see something real quick. I'm curious to see how they talk about this really quick. Yeah. Okay. These are pretty. So what they're. Let's see here. The current context of the context. I just want to see how they explain it really quick. The context in which values expressions are visible can be referenced. If a variable and the expression is not in the current scope, then it is unavailable for use. Scopes can also be declared in hierarchy, so child scopes have access to scopes, but not vice versa. If functions is a closure or judge. So for example, variable valid $x declared inside function can. Data console, yeah, it's available there. But then when you console log out here, it doesn't exist, right? But then here, yeah, okay. So here's they're showing you how scope works, right? So what they're stating, I just wanted to read how they were explaining, but what they're saying here is that, you know, this is the scope with the function's scope, right? And this variable that's defined inside of it, and this is Now this is where let and const do change this. And I'm surprised that they don't. That's interesting. I'm surprised they don't show that. But anyway, let's just understand the var first so you can kind of just get an idea of the concept, right? So this var is defined here inside of this function, and we know that because it's inside the curly braces, right? It even says, right, declared inside function. So this console is inside the function. Console.log right here is outputting the value, right, of this, and it's accessible because this is being called with inside of the same scope, right? So this sees it. This console log sees this X because it exists inside the same scope, and you know that because it's within inside the same curly braces, right? And so when you try to call it outside of the scope, right, outside the curly braces, it's going to tell you that it doesn't exist, or it's going to throw an error, right? And so something like this, when you place a variable outside of any scope, it's actually put on the window, as Mohammed pointed out to us earlier, that when you define a var, specifically a var, outside of your just outside of anything, just in the open, no, not inside a function or an if statement or anything like that, it's on the global scope, which is the window object, and this is the window object. Every page has its own window object, right? As you can see, like that, right? And so any type of definition of variables that exist outside of any like any scope, like being defined inside of a function, doesn't exist on the window. It exists inside this function scope, right? But anything outside of that, like this var x, that would be on the window object, and so it's accessible everywhere. Hence the global reference. They say that, you'll hear that all the time. Is it on the global scope, or is it a global variable, which means it's available throughout the entire program, inside, outside functions, doesn't matter. You can call it. So here, as they show you, they're calling the function, and this is kind of weird too, right? So let me explain this a little bit. Oh God, this gets you into a lot of deep stuff. So let me slow down a little. This may be weird because we talked about the way that the page runs from top to bottom, right? This is where JavaScript is weird. Okay, we haven't even defined this yet, right? So how are they calling it before defining it here? Well, JavaScript does this really weird thing where it does function hoisting, and it pulls these things to the top of the page, right? So they actually exist up here like this, if you want to kind of fudge it the way I'm kind of hanging it up there. And it's actually then being called. And that's called, just know it's called hoisting. And what it does is it's pulling these to the top. Now, I don't do this personally because it looks weird and it just doesn't make sense. So I always define my functions first and then call them. I never do that backwards, even though you can. I don't really know anybody else that does that either. I haven't really ever seen that. So it's just weird to do it that way. But what they're doing here is they're just kind of, they don't talk about it, which is interesting that they don't bring that up. But I thought it was a good time to bring it up since it might have brought question to you, like, why is this here? And they're, you know, does that mean no difference between this dot x equals 1 var x equals 1 declaration else? Hold on, let me think about that. What you said. Well, this is reference to whatever scope you're in, right? So like if you defined a function and you said, well, we can do that. Let's just do it. Function, right? We'll call it scope check. Okay, so what was I going to show you? So oh, no, that's just the work. I consoled it. So in this case, right, that this um, is being, yeah, like you said, is it on the, you said, is it on the window, right? Does that mean no difference between this dot x equals 1 var x equals 1? Yeah, I think I don't know. It's not. It's, they're both being, right, defined on the window, but you don't really do that. I mean, I wouldn't. Well, first of all, like again, I wouldn't really. I don't really mess with the var anymore, to be honest with you. With new ES6 implementations, I don't really use var anymore at all. Period. Like, because it does screw you up so much with the global scope stuff. But this usually references like the object that you're in. Like when you're in a, like when you're in a, when you're in actual, like when you're in a class, if you say this, it's referring to the class that you're calling it on. So that's actually a pretty deep subject. This understanding is a whole thing in JavaScript that yeah, we'll get into. I'm actually curious if they do talk about it. I don't want to go too far out because we could really, you could really get into some. I'm just seeing here if they talk about it. Read more about variable scoping. See there, this is the real basics, right? Like here, look, this is what this is called, language basics crash course. So they're not even getting into that yet, but we will talk about this and stuff because that is one of the another quirky thing about JavaScript, right? But we don't need to get overly concerned about it right this second. You're asking great questions, Mohammed. I don't want to disregard you or anything like that, but I don't want to get too far off subject matter without, you know, because I mean, you could spend a whole probably hour talking about this and all of its background and what it means now in the new, and how this changes when you talk about using ES6 arrow functions. Those are important things. It does change it completely up. And so we need to, I don't want to get too crazy into talking about it because it'll take us down a whole nother road. But it's a great question. It's a great question. And we will get into that. So let's see, where were we at? Just to kind of stay on course here. All right, so we did the, well, actually we left a while ago, huh? So back to that, we finished our function. We talked about functions. We tested out a few things, talked about return and what it does, and how you can just, you know, return values. That's basically what the return keyword does for you in a function. And you can return just anything you want, strings or, you know, other variables or objects or arrays. You can return pretty much anything you want out of a function. So the next thing they talk about is events. And we did talk about this too. This is all of our things that make things happen. Yeah, Mohammed, though, that's on the, in fact, I'm going to note it down right here. Let's see. With my handy dandy GitLab pen. What does it say? DevOps done right. Those GitLab people are so nice, giving me a free pen and all. Let's see. This, we need to talk about this. Let's talk about this, baby. Let's talk about this and JavaScript scope. And it doesn't fit into that song now, huh? Or just my rhyming is really bad. So this, got it. It's in the book. I've been trying to start doing that lately. I'm like, because I always like, I'm like, yeah, we need to talk about that, and we need, and then I'm like, what was it again that I said we should talk about? I need to do a better job at you know, we're getting there. We're building the stream. We're gonna get better. You know, 6 months from now, we'll probably be much smoother, much better. We're organized, more on flow. We're getting there. We're getting there. Mohammed, you're helping us along the way. I truly appreciate it. And the rest of you as well. Everybody's awesome. Everybody who stops by is good with me. So, okay, so events, real interactivity on a website requires event handlers. So these are code structures that listen for activity in the browser. So it's just sitting there going, go ahead, do something. I'm listening, baby. I'm here for you. Tell me what you want to do. Okay. On click. You want to click? All right, cool. We'll do that. So the most obvious example is handling the click event, which is fired by the browser when you click on something. Click, 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 click. Button. You don't have to, it doesn't have to just be a button. The on click event, you can attach to anything pretty much. Let's talk about all the functions, all the concepts that can be. Yeah, we'll do that. We will. We'll get in. We should. We'll go through this, like, right, get this crash kind of thing done here, just to get those basics down, and then we'll start going into the weeds, as they say. We'll dig into everything functions do, and we'll get into, arrow functions versus regular functions versus declared functions and all that goodness, because you can define functions in different ways, right? So that's all important stuff too. But we're just gonna we're just getting through the basics. So attaching event handlers, you can attach to anything. You can attach it to this header right here, that when somebody just clicks on this, that it does something. It doesn't have to be a button. Okay? It doesn't have to be an anchor tag. It doesn't have, Oh man, we're totally dropping crazy frames now. They must be doing Sunday work at the... Tell me how bad it is if it starts going crazy. We might even lose the stream. But if it happens, it happens. Whatever, that's what we gotta deal with. Internet. Usually my internet's pretty darn good out here. I don't normally have too much of an issue. It's great. I'm getting a gig of internet for like $60 a month, which is pretty darn cheap, I think, comparatively. I bribed him. I told him I was gonna leave him if they don't give me the price for new customers. I was like, I'm a good paying customer. Why wouldn't you give me the incentive? Why are you only giving it to the new customers? Shouldn't you incentivize your people that have already been loyal to you and been paying you on time? Like, I should get the benefit, not these new people who have no loyalty, who haven't been giving into your internet funds. I coerced her into giving me the rate for the new customers, because I said, well, like, I'm gonna leave, and if I leave, I'm not coming back. She goes, I know 80% of our customers that leave don't come back. I go, yeah, so don't you think you should maybe do something about that? And she said, I think we should. She was awesome. That's what I talk about. That's customer service right there, right? Although it really shouldn't have been. I shouldn't have had to ask. I should have just been like, hey sir, we see that you're calling about this. No problem. We'd love to keep you as a customer and give you the best rate possible. That's what I like. Anyway, so event handlers, we can attach them to almost anything. In this case, this is like an all-in-one. This is interesting. This is an interesting way they did this. So they are literally saying on the document, on the HTML, which is the whole page, you're literally talking, this whole document is an HTML document, right? When you click on it, that you run a function that will alert saying, stop poking me, right? So if we take this, let's just do this, right? Let me clear this out. And if I put this in here, and let me just make sure to change this, because this is not going to alert. I don't think that would work. So if we do that, right, and then enter that in, right? So now every time I click over here, hopefully you'll see, ouch, stop poking me. Now you won't see it come out like in separate lines, because if you look at the number, it goes up on the right side, right? 8, 9, 10, 11, 15, 20, 25. I'm clicking. 33. I'm clicking all over. It's still going up because it's on the HTML. The tag, or the event handler, is being assigned, or attached to, I should say, the HTML document, which is this whole thing. So no matter where you click in here, no matter where, the number is going to keep going up, right? Pretty cool, right? You can attach the event handler to anything. This is one way to do it. You could do it other ways. You could have defined this as a variable first and then, you know, ran it that way. It's up to you. There's multiple ways to do it. They're just showing you the most, I guess, the quickest way to just run that. So as it says, there's many ways to attach an event handler to an element. Here we select the HTML element, setting an onClick handler property equal to an anonymous function, right? This is called an anonymous function because, right, there's no name for it. We didn't say function, right, and then space, and then give it a name. So when you see a function like this with no name, that's called an anonymous function. It's so secret. It's anonymous. Doesn't want you to know about it. You can't find me. I have no name. They're very handy. But yeah, for just like this reasoning, you just want something that you just want to run a function. You don't necessarily want to have to call it by any name or anything. You just wanted to assign an event, or sorry, yeah, attach an event to a object in the page, right? And then do something with it, but you don't necessarily have to call it by name, but you could have. There's different ways, like they said, to do it. This is just one way. We'll talk about other ways. Note that, let's see here, they're showing you different ways here. So note that this right here, which we just did, is equivalent to this. Like I said, you could have defined it as a variable, let my HTML equal document.querySelector, right? And we're still doing the same thing. We're looking for this whole HTML page, and then actually, let's just do this so we can see that it's the truth, right? So we have that, right? So we're defining my HTML. We're doing the query, define, you know, to select the HTML document, the whole thing, right? And so then we are taking this, right, and we're calling the my HTML.onClick, right? And then in here, though, we want to say, let's say console.log click, right? Whatever, doesn't matter. Anyway, say whatever you want. Okay, so right now, so you can see, right? Clickety click, 6, 5, 8, 9, 12, 14, going up, right? Anywhere on the page, still working. Up, there's another way. See, right? 2 ways to define a event handler, basically. So first you're attaching an event to an object, and then that function is handling the event. So hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, multiple ways to do that. This is shorter. This is maybe, you know, opens this up to reuse somewhat, because you could use this variable on another function if you needed to, per se. So there's different things. So supercharging our example website. Okay, with this review of JavaScript basics completed. See, that would have been good, right? HC, if we had done that first and then kind of went over to doing this first steps JavaScript stuff, because then we would have had at least a little basis of like, what is a function? What is this event handler thing that we're talking about? So I don't know. I guess we're kind of figuring it out. So in this, it says, you'll learn how to use JavaScript and DOM API features to alternate the display of one of 2 images. So this change will happen as user clicks the displayed image. So choose an image you want to feature on your example site. So ideally the image will be the same size as the image you added previously, or as close as possible. So save this image in your images folder, rename the image to Firefox 2 PNG. See, this is off that base, that example website that they want us to download. Do they actually have? Should I look in there and see if they? Let's see. Where did I think we still had it open? I thought. Yeah, right here. Right? Was that it? No, I don't think that was it. Did I close it? I think I might have canceled it out actually. So let's go back over here, and should we just try to download that again? Or we could just do it ourselves. What do you think? Should we do the example, or should we just try to rough it through ourselves and just get it to work? And just go off of the basics of what they're saying. Yeah, we could do that. Let's do this. Let's do, so first I need, let's go back over to our, this is our, right? We have our file here. Let's create a new folder called images, right? And what I want to do is let's go grab some simple images. Let's say, oh, here's a good one. We could do this. JavaScript. We know what it looks like. Right, so we could do this. Let's do, they said about the same size would be good. So 512, 512, right? Let's do this for example purposes. So let's, I like to do this sometimes. I mean, well, can you do it like that? Save image as, yeah, let's just do that. So we're gonna save this sucker inside of our documents, and we created, where was it at? GitHub. Oh my goodness, I'm not gonna remember where this is at. So JavaScript basics, hello world, images. Okay, good. And let's just, to make this simple, let's just say JS1, save, right? And then let's look at this one. This is the same exact size actually. And we'll save this image as, oh, actually that's not going to be right. Sorry, I need to go back. I just saw what that was saving that as. This is why this doesn't ever, where, I know in, oh no, why did that, oh, I see what they did. Okay, my bad. Ignore what I'm saying. Save image as, go to this one, right? We're going to say JS2. Right, is that gonna work? All right, and let's see, let's talk about, yeah, okay, so now let's go back over to our document here. Let's see, we got our two PNGs in here. Let's see if they both show up. Okay, there's one. Is this one gonna work? Because that's a funky saving there. I'm gonna rename that though. Rename. Let's take that .com off there. I don't need that. Right? Is that gonna still be there with no problem? Yeah, there we go. Okay. All right, so we have our two images, right? And so what they're doing, let's go look at what they're talking about. So here, they are defining the image, right? They're looking, let my image document, oh, that's because the other, all that HTML I didn't put in there because I don't have the downloaded file, so we're doing it the hard way, right? So let's just do this. That says hello world now. So they're looking for the image tag. So obviously they're doing an image source equals images slash, we'll say JS1. Now I wonder how they're doing this. Let's see. Let my source equal my image.get attribute source if my source is equal to images slash Firefox icon. Then my set attribute. Okay, so they don't even have. Well, here's what you can do. You can do what I'm doing and have a defined image in there already so that you have a default image, right? To make sure that it doesn't show up blank unless that is what you want to do. Or, excuse me, you could leave it blank and it would show nothing. But so in this case, let's just go ahead and do that. Let's just go look at what this looks like. Let's see, hold on. The main JS does what now? Nothing, it's really just messing with that. I'll take this out because we don't really need that anymore. So if we go over and look at that, well, we should have an image on here. Okay, so there's our image, right? And now, oh, hold on, sorry, let's go look at what they're telling us to do. Right, so now they're saying, let's go ahead and start to talk to that image. So I'm just going to copy and paste this in here for right now. So we define a variable, right? And because it's going to, like we said, you know, we're doing let because it's going to change, right? So this document query selector is looking over the whole HTML document, right? And it's going to say, find me every image tag. In this case, we only have one, right? So then we say my image. If we click on it, we want to run, what is this called again? Because it's got no name. Anonymous function, right? Anonymous. So we're going to say, define inside this function, we're going to say, let's create a new variable called my source. And we're going to say, and these are the built-in methods, right? Functions of the web or the browser APIs, right? So my image.get attribute source. So this is looking on this page here and saying, find me the image and then find me this attribute called source on this image tag, right? And now I have reference to that, right? So now I can manipulate that attribute, right? So we're going to do a little test. We already learned about this, right? So we're going to say if my source, which is, right, what is that again? That's this source. So it's looking at this, actually, what's in here, right? So it's going to say if that is equal to this, and ours is actually called JS1, right? .png. It says if it's that, then my image dot set the attribute. So there's a get attribute, right? And set attribute. So that lets you get that source attribute or any other attribute for that matter. It doesn't have to be just source. It could be all the attributes that exist on any HTML element. So you could say get attribute class, get attribute ID, get attribute type, right? If you were dealing with an input element inside of a form, right? If this get attribute, you know, input type text or input type checkbox, stuff like that, right? So you can manipulate these attributes. So we're saying if the source is equal to this, then now let's go ahead and set that attribute and let's give it. Now this case, they're trying to, they wanted to switch it, right? What was it before? Sorry, let me go look real quick, just so I'm, yeah. So it's like show. It's like if it's the original and swap it out. So, so we have JS1 as the default, right? So when it sees, it's going to say, if my source is equal to this, then set the attribute to, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch it to the other image, just to kind of show. Else, let's set it back to what it originally was, right? And that's going to happen on the click, right? Because we're attaching that on click to the image, right? Not the, this time we're not attaching it just to the HTML document, we're just attaching it to the actual image tag, right? So now if we come over here and we refresh this page and I click this, so everything's right. If we did this right, then when I click this, it should switch. Oh, baby, we got toggle images in the house. What you talking about? What you talking about with this? Isn't that cool? Oh yeah, interactivity. That's the shiznit. Clickety, clickety, and it, oh, see how fast we do. Very cool. Interactivity in JavaScript. Ain't no stopping me now. I'm JavaScript. I got functions. That's what I'm saying. So, all right. So we learned some good stuff in this one. That was a, and look at how simple, right? I mean, I don't want to say simple because if you knew it might be like a little, but right? Just in literally like, okay, this is even cheating, right? Because I'm just going to back this up a little bit, right? Let's do this. And literally, and I'm even going to go ahead and back that up so you have the correct line numbers here. 9 lines of code, right? We got all that functionality out of that. 9 simple lines of code, right? Yeah, I'll show you with the default content still there now because that's, see, it still works. Beautiful. And in all honesty, that's what I was trying to, I had mentioned before. All this can be on the same line. You literally could write, that's the one thing that's good about JavaScript, unlike some other languages. Not that that's a problem either, but just one of the things about JavaScript is you could literally write every single one. You could write this across the whole top line here and never give it any other like structure. And that's pretty much what happens when you minify everything. I think we talked about that. That's optimizing your code for production builds and stuff. But this is how you write it, so that visually when you come in and look at this, this looks easier to read and more, it's a lot quicker to pick up, you know, what's going on. If you had to try to read this across in a straight line, it'd be pretty bad. I've had to do it. It's rough. Luckily, there's these great things inside of the browser too that help you. Now, if you're looking at data or JavaScript in here and it is in one line, like minified like that, they have this expander, which will actually try to expand it out for you so you can look at it like in the way that it was written. So that could be handy. But yeah, right? That was super. That's a good one. That was a good little walkthrough there. So we did all that. We saved it. We saw how it worked. We explained all that. Adding a personalized welcome message. All right, so let's see how much more we got here, because yeah, this is the same thing. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, they're getting into local storage and stuff. Okay. All right, so I am actually going to call it night tonight because it has been a long week. It's been a long day, and but I didn't want to miss. I wanted to make sure I stayed on schedule somewhat, and you know, at least bring some value. So hopefully tonight you did learn some good things. But when we come back, we'll do this one. On Tuesday, we'll do the adding a personalized welcome message, and then we'll dig deeper. We'll get into some of the stuff Muhammad was asking about, hopefully, with this and stuff, and start digging into some. This is cool, though. Just a quick preview if you want to go look ahead, too. Look into local storage and session storage. That allows you to actually store information, data, if you want to say, in the browser. The browser has this capability to store data. Here, I'll show you real quick. Here, let me move this to the bottom. Oh, well, actually, is it easier up there? Well, I don't know. Let's see. Dock to the bottom real quick. Let's see. Is that better there? Yeah, I think so. Okay, so on the left side here, right, you see these local storage and session storage objects, right? Well, in here, and here, look at Mozilla's. Like, let's see if they have anything set. No, they don't. But see, these in local storage, session storage, these are different storage objects that exist inside the browser. All modern browsers have them, and you are able to store data in there. So you could like store a variable in there. You could store a data object, like anything you really want. I mean, there's a lot. So we'll talk about it. We'll get into it. But basically, just know that it gives the capability to store data in the browser. And the difference between local and session storage. Don't want to get too deep right now. We're going to close out. But local storage allows you to store the information. And it'll keep storing it even after you close the browser. It'll stick there until you clear it, or if the website clears it for you, depending. But session storage literally is what that means. During the session you're in, the data will store in there, but as soon as you close the browser, it deletes and it disappears. And so it doesn't exist anymore. Local storage is something like when you leave a good place. Oh, actually, let's go here. Let's see. Where's my other browser? Here. What's playing Coffee Shop? Let's do this. F12. So if you go look here, and under the Chrome DevTools, it's under Application. So now here, let's see, in local storage, YouTube. So here you can see, right? Local storage for the YouTube domain stores a bunch of different type of bunch of different data, right? So look what they store for you. This is how the browser knows when you come back into YouTube that you were at 25 seconds and 30 or 25 minutes and 32 seconds into a stream or into a playlist or a video you're watching. It stores it here in the browser, right? So there's things like here, look, player volume. It's a set thing. It's saying that the volume right now is set to 100. It's not muted, right? And they actually set an expiration on this, so they'll clear this out when this expiration date happens. So again, don't want to get too, but see all these different keys and values. This is all local storage, and a lot of it has to do with stuff like that in the UI that allows people to have a better experience, like coming back onto here and the volume being set where you like it, knowing where you were left off in a video, stuff like that. And so there's two different ones. Again, like I said, there's session. You can see they're different in here. And then there's local storage. Local storage, again, stores it forever until it either is deleted by specificity. You specify that you want it to delete at a certain time. But session storage, every time you close the browser, boom, it deletes and it doesn't exist anymore. So these are only temporary right now, these session storage variables here, and we'll get into that. So that is local storage and session storage in the browser. And we will get into that next time, because they actually are going to do it in this next exercise where we start setting or adding a personalized welcome message. And we'll get into that here. They're showing it here that they are doing a local storage get item, right? And set item. It's really easy to use. All right. Well, that is going to call it for the evening, and I really appreciate everybody stopped by. Thank you for the follows. Malas Palabras. I probably said that wrong, but thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate it. And thanks for everybody else who stopped in and hanging out. And thanks for the great questions. We had some really good ones, actually. That Mohammed, thanks. HC, everybody, thank you so much. And we will catch you next time on Tuesday at the same time, same bat channel, right? It should be 8 o'clock, maybe a little before, but 8 o'clock definitely. And until then, keep up the code hustle, and we'll talk soon. Have a great week. Didn't have my stream ending thing set. Haha. Didn't have my stream ending thing set. Here we go. Peace. Talk to you guys.